You felt it, haven't you? That quiet tug in your spirit, that gentle inner voice saying, slow down, breathe, lay it down. It doesn't sound like exhaustion, it sounds like divine guidance. When God is about to step in, he often starts by softening your inner world, almost as if the chaos that once felt normal begins to feel foreign. It's his way of telling you that the season of carrying everything by yourself is ending. Many chosen ones around the world describe this as a shift where their mind stops seeking fights, explanations, or answers. The soul begins craving silence instead of stimulation, truth instead of noise, and alignment instead of approval. This whisper is not weakness, it is preparation. Sometimes God pulls you away from battles not because you failed, but because the battle is no longer yours. Think about that. How many times have you pushed forward out of survival, not knowing that heaven had already assigned help behind the scenes? You didn't lose your strength. You simply outgrew the need to fight alone. If you're listening to this message on Mirror of the Soul, ask yourself honestly, have you been trying to solve something God is already preparing to resolve for you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone else might need the reminder your story carries. In recent psychology studies, the human body has been shown to become physically tired when the mind is spiritually overwhelmed. That isn't coincidence, it's correlation. Your soul has been signaling that your spirit has carried burdens heavier than your body could sustain. And just like a muscle that's been stretched too far, it needs healing before it can flex again. So if you've been more tired than usual, more sensitive, or less able to force yourself into spaces your soul rejects, understand this. You are not breaking down. You are being recalibrated. When God prepares to take over, he slows your spirit before he shifts your path. You might feel disconnected from things that once mattered, certain friendships, certain environments, certain habits, even certain ambitions. They no longer feel right because they no longer match the version of you God is preparing to elevate. It's not depression, it's divine disconnection. And it's happening because God needs you available for what comes next. Before we move forward, pause and ask yourself, where in my life is God asking me to release control? Drop your answer in the comments and let this community support you. While you're here, make sure to like and subscribe so more chosen ones can find this message exactly when their spirit needs it. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where the inner voice becomes louder than the world. It's not dramatic, it's not chaotic, it's gentle, steady, and unignorable. It says, enough, you've carried this far too long. This message comes after months, sometimes years of praying, crying, trying, and holding on. Your soul knows when it has reached the point where human effort no longer serves divine purpose. And when that moment arrives, it's not a sign to push harder, it's a sign to surrender. You may notice that even simple tasks feel draining, not because you're lazy, but because your spirit refuses to be fueled by stress anymore. God is detoxing your inner life, removing the adrenaline-based survival mode you lived in for too long. He is replacing it with peace, slowly, intentionally, and permanently. Have you noticed that certain things or people no longer trigger you? That's not numbness, that's mastery, that's spiritual maturity. That's what happens when God rewires your emotional responses. Many chosen ones report that right before God shifts their life, everything feels unusually heavy: relationships, responsibilities, expectations, and even unspoken burdens. That heaviness is not punishment, it is transition. Imagine climbing a mountain with a backpack full of rocks. At the highest point, you suddenly realize the rocks were unnecessary. That's what this season feels like. Your soul is saying, put the bag down, you're ascending now. God is preparing to take over the battles you've been fighting with your bare hands. The exhaustion you feel is evidence of divine intervention, not divine absence. When God is stepping in, he lets the burden become too heavy for you to lift, so you finally allow him to carry it. If you've been feeling stretched thin, drained, or overwhelmed lately, comment below. What weight have you been trying to carry alone? Someone who feels the same may find comfort in your words. This is a truth few understand. Before God performs a breakthrough, he often removes your self-reliance. He lets your usual strategies fail. He lets your old ways of coping stop working. He lets your network become silent. He lets your mind grow tired. Why? Because human strength can only take you to human outcomes, but divine strength takes you to divine purpose. God doesn't weaken you to punish you. He weakens you to position you. Think about Moses standing at the Red Sea. He had no strength to split the waters. Think about David facing Goliath. No earthly skill could guarantee victory. Think about Joseph in prison. No human solution could free him. Yet each one reached a moment where their strength was insufficient, and that exact moment became the stage where God displayed his power. Chosen ones today go through the same pattern. When your strength runs out, heaven's strategy begins. Sometimes the emptiness you feel is not a failure. It is an invitation. God empties your hands so he can fill them with something greater. You being tired is not a sign that your journey ends. It's a sign that your journey is shifting. Many chosen ones misunderstand fatigue during spiritual transitions. They think something is wrong when, in reality, something is right. Your exhaustion is the signal that your earthly plan has reached its limit and God's plan is about to take over. When God is taking over, he doesn't always do it with trumpets and miracles. Sometimes he does it quietly by pulling you away from everything that drains you. Suddenly, conversations that once entertained you feel empty. Arguments you once engaged in feel pointless. Relationships you once fought for now feel misaligned. And commitments you once carried without question now feel like anchors. This is not antisocial behavior. It's divine isolation. God isolates his chosen not to abandon them but to prepare them. In spiritual psychology, isolation is often recognized as the phase where self-identity strengthens and emotional clarity sharpens. When God removes you from the noise, it's because he wants you to hear him clearly. Many chosen ones describe this as a season where they lose interest in things they used to crave. This loss of interest is actually the birth of divine discernment. You are being separated because you are being elevated. Think of a tree. To grow taller, it must redirect energy from branches that no longer bear fruit. You are the same. God is redirecting your energy, your focus, your emotional investment, and your spiritual awareness. He isn't removing people to hurt you. He's removing people who cannot follow where he is taking you. And sometimes he removes you from them for your protection. Not everyone deserves access to the next chapter of your calling. One of the clearest signs God is taking over is this: you stop forcing things. You stop trying to control outcomes. You stop chasing relationships. You stop justifying your worth. You stop begging for clarity from people who offer confusion. You stop fighting battles that drain your peace. This is not apathy, it is surrender. It is the soul saying, God, I've done my part. Now you take the lead. Forcing things is a form of fear. Surrendering them is a form of faith. When your spirit reaches the point where forcing feels impossible, it means God is shifting you from self-power to divine power. Many chosen ones interpret this as burnout, but it's actually spiritual alignment. Your soul refuses to let you invest energy where God has withdrawn his grace. When something stops working, it is often because heaven has already moved you to a new assignment. Psychologically, forcing things creates anxiety. Spiritually, forcing things creates delay. But surrender opens the door for acceleration. Some of the biggest breakthroughs happen right after a chosen one finally stops pushing. Because in that stillness, God moves faster, clearer, and more powerfully than any human effort ever could. This is why your spirit has been tired. It's not tired of life. It's tired of carrying what God is about to remove. There is a moment, quiet, unexpected, and deeply human, when your emotions begin to overflow for no obvious reason. You may cry without knowing why. You may feel waves of sadness, frustration, or relief that seem to rise from nowhere. This is not emotional instability. This is emotional cleansing. God cannot pour new peace into a heart that is still filled with old pain. That sudden emotional release is heaven clearing space for something greater. Many chosen ones report that right before stepping into their breakthrough. They experience a strange heaviness followed by sudden tears that feel almost like a spiritual detox. That's because your soul knows what your mind has yet to realize. God is about to step in. This emotional release is not random. According to studies in behavioral psychology, unresolved emotions sit in the body like pressure waiting to be released. When life shifts, when faith awakens, when spiritual alignment increases, that pressure finds its exit. You might find yourself crying at night, feeling waves of exhaustion, or even feeling relieved after a moment of vulnerability. That's not weakness. That's purification. God is pulling old wounds out of your spirit so they don't follow you into your blessing. And for the chosen ones listening right now on Mirror of the Soul, know this. Those tears were part of the breakthrough, not the breakdown. During this stage, many people try to push away the emotions, thinking they should be stronger. But true spiritual strength is not suppression. It is surrender. When you allow yourself to feel what you've buried, you allow God to heal what you've ignored. There's a reason your spirit has been tender, sensitive, or emotional lately. It's preparing you to receive something that requires an open heart, not a hardened one. And emotional release is God's way of softening the soil of your soul for the seeds He's about to plant. If you've been feeling emotional lately, if you've cried unexpectedly, or if you've felt old memories resurfacing, comment below. What emotions have been rising to the surface for you lately? Your honesty will speak to someone who desperately needs reassurance. And if this message is resonating with you already, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul. Your support helps this message find the chosen ones who need it. There comes a time when God is preparing to take over where the world begins to feel heavy, loud, and energy draining. Places you used to enjoy suddenly feel too crowded, conversations feel shallow, and constant stimulation becomes overwhelming. This is not antisocial behavior. It is your spirit recalibrating. When God is guiding you into a season of divine rest, He first breaks your attachment to chaos. Your soul begins to crave stillness, not because you're avoiding life, but because you're aligning with a higher rhythm. This sudden craving for rest is a spiritual cue. Chosen ones experience this often right before a major shift. Your body becomes tired, your mind seeks quiet, and your spirit refuses to entertain anything that feels forced or draining. Even simple things like small talk, pointless debates, or unnecessary busyness become unbearable. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming focused. God is stilling the noise so you can hear the instructions meant to guide your next chapter. In psychology, this experience is often linked to emotional and cognitive fatigue after prolonged stress. But spiritually, it's much deeper. It's divine redirection. God is teaching your soul to rest so He can move without your interference. He knows that if you're exhausted, you won't try to take control again. This rest is not laziness, it's protection. God is isolating you from the noise so He can elevate you to clarity. If you've been craving rest more than usual, if your energy has felt low, or if you've been intentionally withdrawing from drama, comment below. Where has God been calling you into rest lately? Your voice might be exactly what another chosen one needs to hear. And while you're here, don't forget to like this message and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul for more deep spirit guidance. There comes a point where something inside you shifts. Conflicts that once triggered you now feel beneath you. Arguments that once consumed you now feel pointless. People who once drained you no longer have the power to penetrate your peace. This is not avoidance. It is evolution. God is maturing your spirit. When He is about to take over, the battles that once felt urgent suddenly lose their importance because your spirit recognizes that energy no longer belongs in the old war. This shift is profound. It means you're transitioning from reacting to rising. You're learning that peace is more valuable than proving a point, and that silence is often more powerful than defense. Many chosen ones describe this as a moment where they simply stop caring about the things that used to bother them. That isn't indifference, it's divine discernment. It's the realization that not every battle was yours to fight, and not every person deserved a response. Spiritually speaking, when God is preparing to fight for you, He strips the emotional charge from old conflicts. You lose the desire to argue, the need to explain, and the urgency to be understood. It's as if heaven is whispering, "This is not yours anymore. I'm handling it." You'll find yourself walking away not because you have no strength left, but because you finally value your peace more than your pride. If this resonates with you, comment below. What battle have you recently walked away from? And how did it feel? Your reflection may free someone else from a war they're still fighting. Remember to like this message and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so we can continue growing this spiritual community together. Suddenly, without planning it, without forcing it, without hyping yourself up, a quiet confidence rises within you. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It doesn't shout, it settles. It is calm, it is steady, it is spiritual, and it is the clearest sign that God is taking over. This confidence doesn't come from your achievements, your appearance, or your circumstances. It comes from your alignment. It comes from something you cannot explain but deeply recognize. God is with me in this. This quiet confidence is not the same as ego. Ego demands attention. Divine confidence requires none. Ego needs validation. Divine confidence stands alone. Ego is loud. God-given confidence is peaceful. Many chosen ones feel this shift right after they've cried, right after they've surrendered, or right after they've let go of something heavy. That's because once the soul releases its burdens, God fills the empty spaces with strength. You might find yourself reacting differently, less emotionally, more wisely. You might not fear what used to intimidate you. You may even start making decisions that surprise the old version of you. This is God restoring your spirit. It's the kind of confidence that's not based on certainty but on faith. You just know that even if things look uncertain, you are not walking through them alone. Let me ask you this. Have you experienced this quiet confidence recently? Where in your life have you noticed a sudden inner peace? Share your answer in the comments. Your confidence might awaken someone else. And if this message is filling your spirit today, take a second to like and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so you never miss the guidance your soul needs. When God is taking over, nothing stays the same. People shift, opportunities close, doors lock, relationships fade, and routines collapse. It may feel like your life is falling apart, but spiritually, it is falling into alignment. God cannot elevate you into your next chapter while you're still clinging to what belonged in the last one. So He rearranges everything, not to punish you, but to prepare you. This rearranging is often uncomfortable because it removes your attachments and replaces them with purpose. The job you lost was not rejection, it was redirection. The friendship that ended was not betrayal, it was protection. The opportunity that slipped through your fingers was not failure, it was divine filtering. God removes what was built on human strength so He can rebuild what will be sustained by His strength. During this stage, you may feel confused or overwhelmed. You may not understand why everything is shifting at once. But trust this, when God rearranges your life, it's because the old structure cannot support the blessing that's coming. Just like a house must be remodeled before expansion, your life must be restructured before elevation. And chosen ones feel this deeply. They experience loss, change, and spiritual disorientation right before a major breakthrough. Comment below with this question in mind. What part of your life feels like it's being rearranged right now? Your awareness might comfort someone who feels the same. And if this message is bringing clarity to your spirit, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so more chosen ones can join this journey. This divine rearranging is not destruction, it is preparation. God is clearing space for the life you prayed for. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when you look back at the life you once lived and something feels different, not nostalgic, not tempting, just distant. It's as if the door behind you has quietly closed without your permission. You may try to revisit old habits, old relationships, or old lifestyles, but they no longer feel like home. This is not confusion, it is confirmation. God is removing the option of returning to what once drained you. The old version of you cannot survive in the new spiritual territory He is bringing you into. This realization often comes with a bittersweet feeling. Even if the past held pain, it also held familiarity, and humans naturally cling to the familiar. But chosen ones don't stay where God has removed His grace. You've grown too much. You've outgrown certain people, certain environments, and even certain versions of yourself. What once fit now feels suffocating. What once made sense now feels heavy. And what once felt like survival now feels like self-betrayal. Psychologists say that when someone evolves emotionally or spiritually, the mind no longer finds comfort in what previously caused harm. Spiritually, this is even more profound. God removes the emotional pull toward the past so you can fully step into the future. That's why old temptations don't have the same power. Old wounds don't have the same sting. Old cycles don't have the same attraction. Your spirit knows that backward is no longer an option. Ask yourself, what part of your old life no longer feels like you anymore? Drop your answer in the comments. Someone might need to hear that they're not alone in feeling disconnected from their past. If this message already resonates with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so more chosen ones can find the clarity they've been praying for. Chosen ones often misunderstand their weakest moments. They think their tears make them fragile. They think their exhaustion makes them broken. They think their uncertainty makes them unworthy. But in the spiritual world, weakness is not the absence of strength. It is the birthplace of divine power. God often allows you to reach your emotional and physical limits because that is where His strength can fully manifest. When your power ends, His begins. This internal strength doesn't appear with force. It grows gradually, gently, almost invisibly. You begin noticing that even though you feel tired, you're still standing. Even though you feel lost, you're still here. Even though everything feels heavy, something inside you refuses to break. That something is not willpower. It is God holding your spirit together. Some of the strongest chosen ones are the ones who cried the most, yet kept moving forward. In psychological studies, resilience often forms after moments of intense emotional vulnerability. Spiritually, this aligns perfectly. The breaking moment is often the making moment. God uses your weakness to train your spirit to lean on Him rather than yourself. That's why He lets certain situations stretch you. That's why He lets certain people disappoint you. That's why He lets certain battles leave you tired. Because from that place, He can finally rebuild you the way He intended. Chosen ones go through a period where God becomes quiet. Not absent, quiet. The prayers feel like they're floating into the air, the signs feel less obvious, the guidance feels delayed, and the silence feels almost personal. But this silence is sacred. It is not punishment, it is preparation. When a teacher is silent during a test, it is because the student already has the knowledge to pass. God's silence is not distance, it is confidence in who you are becoming. This silence teaches you to trust your spirit, not just your signs. It teaches you to walk by faith, not validation. It teaches you to rely on your discernment rather than external confirmation. In psychology, silence is known to increase introspection. Spiritually, it increases alignment. Because in silence, your soul becomes louder than your fears, and that inner clarity is what prepares you for the next chapter. Many chosen ones describe this stage as feeling alone even though I know God is with me. That's because you're transitioning from dependency to partnership. God isn't carrying you the same way. He's walking beside you, building spiritual maturity. Silence doesn't mean abandonment, it means elevation. When the noise stops, revelation begins. If you've been in a season of divine silence, comment. How has God's quietness felt to you lately? What has it taught you? Your insight may be the confirmation someone needs. And while you're here, please like the video and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so this message reaches the chosen ones who need it most. One of the clearest signs that God has taken over is the sudden clarity that follows surrender. When you finally stop trying to control everything, when you stop overthinking, when you stop forcing outcomes, something miraculous happens. You begin to see things clearly. Not with your eyes, but with your spirit. What once confused you now makes sense. What once overwhelmed you now feels simple. What once scared you now feels manageable. You may not realize it yet, but the exhaustion you're feeling is not a sign of weakness. It's evidence that you've been battling spiritual storms far greater than the average soul ever faces. Chosen ones carry burdens that are invisible to the world but heavy beyond imagination. That fatigue that hits you out of nowhere. that sudden loss of motivation, that desire to withdraw and disconnect. These aren't random emotional dips. They're the final stages of a war you've already survived. Before God reverses your situation, your soul often collapses from everything you were never meant to carry forever. Spiritual fatigue shows up when your inner world has been stretched beyond its limit. Think about the times you held in your tears because you didn't want to worry the people around you. Think about the nights your mind kept replaying every painful memory because healing hadn't fully landed yet. That kind of emotional weight drains a soul deeply. But here's the truth. Even when you felt depleted, you kept moving. You didn't surrender to darkness. You didn't allow your spirit to be crushed. You survived situations that would have destroyed someone who wasn't chosen. That alone is proof of divine reinforcement working behind the scenes. You've been fighting battles that weren't just physical, they were spiritual. The enemy tried to exhaust you into silence. Negative cycles tried to pull you into discouragement. People who misunderstood your journey projected their fears onto you. And yet, you stayed standing. That spiritual fatigue is simply the aftermath of victory. It is your body and soul finally laying down the weapons because God has taken over the fight. You no longer need to defend yourself. You no longer need to overthink every step. The pressure is lifting. What makes this moment powerful is that your exhaustion is actually confirmation that divine intervention is closer than it's ever been. God allows you to become tired only when a shift is coming. Think of Elijah in the wilderness, broken, exhausted, convinced he couldn't go any further. And God didn't scold him. He gave him rest. He gave him strength. He gave him new direction. That is exactly what is happening to you. When the soul collapses, the spirit steps in with fresh strength. When your energy runs out, God brings the reversal you've been praying for. There are moments in life where God won't allow your own strength to work anymore. You try pushing forward, but nothing moves. You try forcing outcomes, but every door seems sealed shut. You try to control situations, but your strategies fall flat. At first, this feels like failure. It feels like a lack of discipline or motivation. But spiritually, it's divine replacement. God is shutting down your personal strength so he can replace it with his supernatural strength. He's making sure you don't win the battle through your own power, because if you did, you would give yourself the credit. Many chosen ones mistake this divine shutdown for stagnation. You start wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do what I used to do? But nothing is wrong with you. You are transitioning from human effort to divine empowerment. When God takes over, your old strategy becomes useless because it belongs to the previous chapter of your life. He is preparing you to function on a higher spiritual frequency. Just like a phone must restart to install a new system, your soul is rebooting to install divine strength. What's beautiful is that God's strength doesn't feel like motivation. It feels like peace. It doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like clarity. It doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like alignment. Suddenly, things that stressed you no longer affect you. Situations that used to drain you no longer hold power. You begin moving with a confidence that doesn't come from your personality. It comes from God operating through you. That is spiritual transformation at its deepest level. When God replaces your strength with his, doors open that you didn't even knock on. Opportunities appear without your effort. Solutions show up in places you stopped checking. People begin to recognize your light even when you're quiet. This is the moment God says, "Now watch what I can do." Your only job is surrender. Your only responsibility is trust. Your only task is allowing yourself to be carried instead of trying to carry everything yourself. One of the most misunderstood parts of the chosen one's journey is the quiet season. This is the period where life feels still, slow, and uneventful. You pray and don't hear much. You work but don't see results. You hope for signs but receive silence. In these moments, many begin to doubt themselves or God's timing. But the truth is, the quiet days are not punishment. They are preparation. God is not ignoring you. He is organizing your life in a way that requires silence, not noise. Think of a seed in the soil. It grows in darkness long before it rises into the light. Your quiet season is the soil phase. You are being rooted, strengthened, and protected from premature exposure. God knows exactly when to reveal you. He knows when you are spiritually strong enough to carry the blessings and responsibilities coming your way. If He released everything too early, the weight would crush you. The silence is simply God's careful strategy. In quiet seasons, God also removes distractions. People fade away. Old habits lose their grip. Relationships that were draining fall apart. You may not realize it, but God is subtracting noise so He can add clarity. He's making space for divine instructions. He's preparing your environment to match the destiny He designed for you. Silence is not empty. It is full of invisible construction. God is building a new life around you piece by piece. This is also the season where your identity transforms. You begin seeing yourself differently. You start noticing your emotional triggers, your spiritual patterns, your hidden wounds. The stillness forces you to face what constant busyness kept you from healing. And though it may feel uncomfortable, this inner reorganization is necessary for the next version of you to emerge. You are being sharpened, refined, and purified for the chapter ahead. There comes a moment where God no longer allows people to mistreat, drain, or manipulate you. He steps in and cuts off their access, not because you asked, but because the season of their influence in your life has expired. You'll notice people suddenly distancing themselves, acting differently, or revealing their true intentions. This is not coincidence. It is divine protection. When God takes over, every person who carries hidden jealousy, ill intentions, or spiritual contamination is removed from your path. You may emotionally resist these separations at first. Humans naturally cling to what is familiar even when it harms them. But God never subtracts without purpose. He sees the conversations you don't hear. He sees the envy people hide behind smiles. He sees the harm someone plans in their heart long before they act on it. Removing them is not rejection, it is rescue. You are being shielded from sabotage, heartbreak, spiritual drainage, and betrayal. The moment God restricts someone's access to you, something shifts in the spiritual realm. Attacks that used to hit you suddenly bounce off. Manipulation that once worked no longer affects you. Emotional triggers lose their power. You begin to see people clearly, without illusions or emotional fog. This is God sharpening your discernment, one of the strongest weapons a chosen one possesses. Discernment saves you from battles that prayer alone cannot prevent. This divine intervention also prepares room for people who are aligned with your destiny. New connections, healthier relationships, supportive friendships, and spiritually mature individuals will begin showing up in your life unexpectedly. God never leaves a void. When He removes people, it is because He is preparing to replace them with individuals who match your new level, not your old wounds. Restoration is the final stage of divine takeover. It's the moment where God not only returns what was taken from you but multiplies it. The years you cried, He returns joy. The friendships that fell apart, He brings better connections. The opportunities that were stolen or sabotaged, He brings bigger ones. When God restores, He doesn't match what you had, He exceeds it. He pays back with spiritual interest, emotional interest, and life-changing abundance. Restoration happens when your heart is finally ready to receive without desperation, when you've healed enough to understand your worth, when you've grown enough to handle blessings responsibly, when you've surrendered enough to stop forcing outcomes. God never restores in a rushed or chaotic moment. He restores when your spirit is aligned, your character is strengthened, and your faith is solid. That's why the wait feels long, but the reward feels divine. Everything you went through had a purpose. The heartbreak softened you, the betrayal sharpened you, the losses humbled you, the delays matured you, and the spiritual warfare prepared you. Nothing was wasted. Every hardship built a version of you capable of carrying the blessings God is preparing to release. Restoration is not a reward, it is the next natural step in your spiritual evolution. When restoration arrives, it often comes suddenly. One phone call changes everything. One opportunity shifts your entire path. One connection opens doors you prayed for years ago. God moves in ways that remind you He was always in control. And when He restores, He makes sure your enemies see it, not for revenge, but for testimony. Your life becomes evidence of God's faithfulness. There comes a point in every chosen one's life where the journey becomes too heavy for human hands to hold. You reach a moment where your prayers feel tired, your spirit feels stretched, and your mind feels overwhelmed by battles that never seem to stop. But this moment right here is not the breaking point you think it is. It is the threshold of divine surrender. It is where God steps forward, gently places his hand on your heart and says, "You've carried enough. Let me take it from here." This is not weakness. This is not defeat. This is alignment with a higher plan that has been unfolding since the day your soul entered this world. Every tear you shed, every silent prayer you whispered, every night you held yourself together, God saw all of it. And now he is responding. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is giving God permission to rewrite the parts of your life you can no longer navigate alone. You've spent years trying to fix what others broke, heal wounds you didn't cause, build a life without the support you deserved, and fight enemies who were threatened by the light you carry. But now, God is removing the pressure from your chest. He is lifting the invisible weight that has been sitting on your shoulders for far too long. He is clearing your path from spiritual clutter, mental exhaustion, and emotional heaviness. You are not failing. You are transitioning. God is positioning you for a life where peace becomes your foundation instead of chaos, where clarity becomes your guide instead of confusion, and where blessings flow without resistance because the spiritual atmosphere around you has finally shifted. This divine surrender is also a spiritual reset. It is the moment your identity upgrades. You begin to see yourself no longer from your wounds, but from your worth. You stop associating your value with the seasons that broke you. You stop living through survival mode and start moving with destiny mode. God is renewing your spiritual strength, rebuilding your confidence, redefining your purpose, and realigning your vision. Things that once triggered anxiety now silence you with peace. Situations that used to drain you now lose their access to your spirit. You are stepping into a version of yourself that feels unfamiliar because it is spiritually refined. You are not returning to who you used to be. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. And this version of you, healed, awakened, aligned, is unstoppable. This moment of surrender is also God's signal to your enemies. Access denied. Every force that tried to break you, every person who underestimated you, every situation that was meant to delay you, God is shutting it down. The spiritual warfare that once surrounded you is evaporating because the battle is no longer yours. You may feel tired right now, but your spirit is being rebuilt. You may feel alone, but heaven is surrounding you. You may feel unclear, but divine direction is already in motion. Sudden blessings, unexpected opportunities, supernatural breakthroughs, they all start in moments like this. When God takes over, he doesn't move slowly. He moves in ways that remind everyone around you that his hand has been on your life all along. Your restoration will not be quiet. Your elevation will not be hidden. Your testimony will not be small. So breathe, release, surrender. This is your moment of divine exchange, your weariness for his strength, your confusion for his clarity, your fear for his peace. Your only task now is to let God be God. Let him carry what you cannot. Let him close the doors that keep hurting you. Let him open the ones you've been praying for. Let him lead you into the chapter where everything finally makes sense. And while you're here, ask yourself, what burden do I need to surrender right now? What part of my life is God asking me to release so he can rebuild it? Invite your viewers to comment their answers below. Encourage them to like, subscribe, and stay connected to Mirror of the Soul because this is not the end of their journey. It is the beginning of a new, divinely guided season.